Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Planning, Economic, Community Development, and Community Services meeting. I'm your Commissioner Chair, Larry Johnson. I'm joined by Commissioner Rita Davis Johnson and Jeff Rader from District 2 and Ted Terry from Super District 6. We're going to get started. First, I would like to see from the committee members, have you had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, I would entertain a motion at this time.
Yeah, I missed the June 14th meeting, so.
I have had a chance to review them and I move approval.
All right, I'll second that, Commissioner Rader. Is there anybody with any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes approval for June 14th, say, raise your hand and word aye. Motion carries. We have some previously heard agenda items. The first one is 1627. Consider consenting to the de-annexation of property located at 250 West Parkwood Road, Decatur, Georgia 30030. This is in Districts 2 and 6. Can we hear from our GIS department background information?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, good sir.
So this property is, petitioner is trying to de-annex a portion of his property that's located within the city of Decatur. Half of it is unincorporated, and the portion that's in Decatur, he wants to de-annex. What happened was, the reason I asked for a 30-day deferment was because in that process, he ended up selling the property. And I wanted to contact the new owner to see if they were still interested in de-annexing the property, and they were. And they've contacted me since then, and we've decided to continue the process.
Excellent. Okay. Commissioners Rader, Terry, any questions?
I do have a question. Mr. Greer, do you know if the property owner has petitioned the city or has contacted the city to undertake?
Yes, sir. He actually contacted the city first, and I got the notification from the city manager.
Okay, and so did they indicate that they were, not opposed?
They were not opposed, but
Okay.
once it's approved by the board, it has to go back to the city.
Right, that's what I'm aware of. I just didn't want to,
Yes.
start and then get stuck. All right. If there is no further discussion, I do have
Anybody have any more questions? And then
I have a question. Why did they want to de-annex?
Because this property, half of the property was actually annexed years ago into the city of Decatur. So part of his property is in unincorporated and the other half is in the city of Decatur. So he's actually getting two tax bills for this particular, because it's two separate parcels. So he just wanted to make it unincorporated, the entire property unincorporated.
Okay. Well, I have a second to your motion.
All right, Commissioner Rader, make the motion.
Yeah, I move that we approve this resolution.
All right.
Second.
Moving and properly second. Is there any more comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Welch has his hand up.
All right.
Mr. Welch has his hand up.
Oh, I see, Mr. Law Department. I'm sorry.
I didn't see that. Okay. Mr. Welch?
Thank you for recognizing me. I just wanted to follow up on Commissioner Rader's point. He is correct, of course, that this petition process should start with the city and will end up back with the city. So we would simply suggest, and I can provide verbiage for next week for the official meeting, any approval of this item, we would recommend be made contingent upon the necessary approvals by the city.
Thank you for the clarity. Appreciate it. So we have a motion. It's been
so my motion is so amended.
All right. You keep your second. All right, let's all in favor, show of hands and words. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And now we'll go to item 1739, updated 2019 and 2023 consolidated plan for Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD for short, including 2021 annual action plan of federally funded, no cost to the county. And we go to the great Alan Mitchell.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Hope you can hear me very well. John Matowski is going to put my slide deck up, and we'll go through the, let's see.
Is that the right presentation? No, it's Andrew
no.
Baker's. I'm sorry, give me
No,
1
okay.
second here. Apologies. Get the right one up momentarily. There it is, PDF.
Yeah, that's the right one, John. Okay, I'll start then. If you can hear me, Mr. Chairman, am I coming through okay?
Yes, sir. We hear you.
Okay, great. So each year we look forward to seeing the commissioners getting approval for our 2022 plan, or for that matter, the first year we're in. We typically HUD's somewhat late, so we're requesting funds for 2022, and we're actually in the month of June, and these funds will not, if approved, show up until probably September, October timeframe. So we always have to do some proper management of funds to keep afloat with some of the projects we have on the way, and that HUD is always late. The process we use to gather information from the citizens in DeKalb County with the complication of federal regulations is netted in this chart, which basically is everything we do is driven off of 3 goals. Goal 1, which would be decent housing. Goal 2, suitable living environment. And goal 3, expanded economic development opportunities. And we get our input from the community needs, which is to the left, which transcends housing, homelessness, infrastructure needs, public facility needs, and also public service needs. They map to the 3 goals. So we can't do something and get it counted to be eligible with HUD unless the input maps to the goals. So this is really a netting of everything we do with community input to accomplish our goals with HUD. And the funds we use have to stay in those 3 buckets. The next chart is a perspective of where we've been since 2019 up to 2022. And surprisingly though, the funds are coming down. So this chart portrays the block grant programs that we have, which are CDBG, Home, ESG, and for the most part, we have been have upticks early back in 19 to 20. However, lately we've gotten less funding. So the numbers for 2022 that are approved by Congress, these are not funds we're requesting. We can only request what Congress allocates, is putting us in a position to have $7.3 million for the 3 block grant programs, which effectively reduces us by about 11% or down $1 million. And that $1 million reduction is primarily in CDBG and Home. Home, of course, is a program where we have housing. So I just want to make you aware of that. And also the continuum of care, which is a very significant competitive offering we have for homeless initiatives. We've been able to make those numbers go up about 12%. That's not allocated by Congress. It's really grant writing at its best, getting money for our chronic homeless individuals. So we've proven over the years, as we broke away from the city of Atlanta, to increase our funding. So for DeKalb County, 2021, we've got 6.5, which is up from the previous year of 2020, about 12%. That's a statement to our staff in terms of their ability to write grants. The next chart gives you a different perspective in terms of where we've been. COVID-19 allocations. HUD was late to the game, but we have gotten appropriations from HUD to mimic the ARP funds that the county has been using. So suffice to say, we have basically 4 programs. The first one is CDBG CV, which we got $6.8 million, and we have 3 years to spend those funds. That's going to be driven initially by mortgage assistance. You've approved, and thank you again, mortgage assistance programs to be implemented by 2 fairly large organizations. Urban League and Our House have $1 million contracts to do mortgage assistance. And the reason no one is doing mortgage assistance except DeKalb County, and we will start this effectively almost today because our contracts just got approved within purchasing and legal, and we're up and running. Also, Atlanta Legal Aid will supplement the efforts in that area. So I encourage all of you who have constituents or individuals that have mortgage problems to refer them to our system. Will be advertised extensively so that they can get help with their mortgages that are delinquent, not rental, but mortgage. The next category is ESGCV. John, go back to the next previous chart if you don't mind. The next big chunk of funds we got was 5.4 million, and that has to do with homeless assistance, hotel, motel, food security, where we've been able to house a number of homeless individuals in hotels, motels for years. And most recently during the pandemic, we've had almost 200 people at one time in the 4 hotels that we use throughout the county to manage these individuals. So we do it very quietly, but keep in mind that the people you don't see on the street, we've housed in hotels with food, security over a significant period of time, even going back to the winter when we had the warming stations. And the last grant is a new grant we got, which is Home ARP, where we have $7.8 million, and that will be used to look at bridge housing or shelter. And I have a consultant working with me to develop plans to come to the commission to get approval to implement for the first time our own shelter in DeKalb County. We tend to put most of our people in shelters outside of DeKalb. So we're at a stage where we need to house our own people within DeKalb County. So you'll be seeing, hopefully in about a month, a proposal from the department getting permission to engage in the shelter business to acquire a facility, and we call it DeKalb's own shelter. So, and lately we got money from DCA. You approved that the last VOC, a walk-on item that you approved. Again, thanks for that. Well, we got $1 million from DCA, which goes back to the homeless initiatives. So next chart, John.
Commissioner Rader does have a question, it appears.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through the presentation. How many more slides you got? You don't supposed to have.
I got a lot. I've got about 20. I'll go a little bit faster if you choose.
No, let me let Commissioner Reed in, because the central staff's supposed to let you know how many he's supposed to have. But
Okay, well, real quickly, I was interested to know, if we were to ever actually, use our interior code compliance ordinance and take the business license away from a slum apartment operator, what fund would relocating residual tenants come from if we were to try to accomplish that? Because it seems to me that that is something that we can't ever pull the trigger on, because we can't rehouse people even though they're living in substandard conditions. And so I'm just wondering, is one of those funds that you had just described, and you could have left that back up because I was speaking to that specific slide.
Is a previous chart, John.
Yes.
The answer is I'm going to say no with an explanation. These funds go to individuals that are technically and clinically homeless. And if you have a dwelling, it says basically you trigger relocation. So if you get rid of someone, you get into what's called relocation. Individuals that are homeless can call us and we can help them. So if you trigger homelessness, the individual that did the triggering has to appropriate funds. It's called the relocation.
So I guess my follow-up question then is one of these categories eligible for that type of a rehousing?
No, they're not.
So how have we rehoused people that we found to be in, substandard housing, notwithstanding they may be, tenants and stable, but nevertheless, the housing doesn't. I think there was one off of Embers Drive that we moved some people out of and that type of a thing. How do we do that?
We have, for the most part, gotten people out of motels that are in situations where they're areas that are unfit for human habitation, and therefore, if they're unfit, we can relocate them with some of these funds. So that's primarily that. But if there is someone in a dwelling and you take an action to condemn a place, that it does on the owner, the person who initiated that. We tend not to get involved in that because you wouldn't want to participate in the relocation. It's very expensive. So, i.e., if you have a condominium and you want to acquire it and buy it and put it to public use, the people that are there, we can't help you with funding because HUD encourages us not to get involved in relocation expense because it triggers a mammoth expense machine when you do that. But we tend to err on the side of helping people that are clinically homeless or in our areas. And with that, you're safe. And the other individuals we help are typically 30 to 50% AMI individuals that need help.
So I will, we can pick this up at another point, but I would like to figure out if there is a way that we can start to move people out of substandard housing where they are bound by a lease to, you know, housing that does not meet our code compliance, and yet we feel as though we can't move them out because they got no place to go.
Yeah, we can have that discussion, but it's, I'd love to have that discussion because it's going to be a relocation, which is a very sensitive item to get into.
Right.
I'd be willing to chat with you about that. In fact,
Yeah,
I
and
want to.
also your dilemma going to be, you got somebody in substandard housing, you have nobody with no housing. So do you move the people out of substandard? And what do you do with the people that's on the street who don't have a roof at all?
Those individuals we embrace and we help. We help if you're without housing.
Right. I'm just saying you're going to have a dilemma when you move people out of substandard and you got people on the street already, and you already have a limited amount of housing. How do you make, you got to figure out how are you going to do that when you don't have any control over the housing stock, and the housing that you do have, you're trying to put the people who are on the street into a place. And you got
we can have that long discussion here now if you think that that's appropriate, but I would suggest that it is, you know, a necessity. Nevertheless, I think if we're going to get the market to react and provide quality housing, we're going to have to let them know that it's not okay for them to maintain folks in substandard housing that is below our code. So I agree that it is a, you know, it's a challenge, but nevertheless, I do think that it's something that we ought to address. And I was just trying to see if any of these funds could be applied to such use, but I would be
right. I was just adding some more to the discussion because part of it's going to be is you're dealing with landlords and tenants. That's a lot of that stuff is controlled at the state level that the county doesn't have control over in terms of the tenant lease and all those things. So just add all that into when we do bring this back up for a discussion, but these are all great points. I appreciate that, Commissioner Rader. We'll go to Commissioner Terry and Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I just wanted to acknowledge and agree that I do think that's something we should talk about. I think the $5 million that we have not, you know, expressly allocated through ERA seems to have provisions in there for relocation expenses. So I just, you know, let's explore all the options. But I totally agree. I think if we have even a small amount of money that we can use sort of in a more case-by-case basis as we try to address some of the dangerous dwellings that we know exist, you know, that's going to go a long ways, and I think improving the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis Johnson.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, you know, I think that we're going to look at several options of addressing this issue. And I think it's something that I will, you know, I will elaborate further on at a later time. This may not be the setting for it, but there's various options that I think that we have, including private-public partnerships that could help us look at the situation and try to provide alternatives. And that's some of the things that I'm looking at in the 5th District. So I think that, I think it was, government cannot provide all. I mean, it's just not gonna happen because we don't have unlimited funds. But we do know the magnitude of the problems that exist in our community. So I think that it's going to be a collaborative effort through government, through private partnerships, public-private partnerships, and through other methods that can help us provide the housing that people need. And it's only, and the component is just not housing. There's other aspects that go with housing. And so I look forward to a more thorough discussion on this, because it's, I mean, one shoe is not going to fit all. And, it's happening in every district, it's happening in every county, in every state, it's happening across this country. So what can we do in DeKalb County to have the homeless population and get them stable, to move them into some form of permanent housing? So I just wanted to say that this discussion with our community development person, and $5 million is not going to touch the surface of what is needed out here just in DeKalb. Will it happen? It will, but it's a big problem, and we need further discussion on it. And like I said, I'm looking at some stuff in the fifth, and hopefully, we can talk about that.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Johnson, continue, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, commissioners. And so the next part of the presentation is to introduce some accomplishments we've had on a macro basis before I get into specifics of the plan for 2022. So I'll go through the ballot. We did a lot, but I like to give you the high level view of that. So this project is the District 4 and 7 Community Senior Center. It's going to be a $9.5 million project when we finish, and we have that under construction. My goal is to get this completed by December, January timeframe. And it's a 24,000 square foot facility, which has a 30 by 75 foot pool, salt water, and heated, of course, on Elam Road. And this is a construction photo of giving you, in essence, where I stand. So we've made a lot of progress with regard to the facility. I'd always invite people to come out. This next shot is going to be what the pool looks like. We have the part of a roof on, roof decking, the granite pool is poured, and just a shot photo from the rear. It's going to be all glass in the back, gives you a sense of construction. This is the multi-purpose room where we have things under construction. So we're making a lot of headway on Elam Road. The next project that we actually did is complete. It's Toby Grant. It's in obviously District 4 and District 6. It's a $10 million project. The county gave me about CDBG funds to the tune of about $4 million, had to be injected into this project to complete it. I'm the project director on it, and I've got it complete. I'm very proud of this building, and some of the commissioners have been able to visit it. This is the gym that's included in the project, and this gym is probably one of the largest gyms we have in the county. We're proud. This is a photo of inside Toby Grant, but I invite you to come there and visit. The next project is a project we're very proud of, which is in Lithonia. It's the East DeKalb Senior Center at Bruce Street. We plan to have a ribbon cutting on that on the 14th of July with the help of Commissioner Davis Johnson. This is also a photo of the outside of it. And also this is a photo of the inside. We of course put furniture in all our facilities, but this gives you a snapshot of what's there. The next area of importance is economic development. We did a lot of good things with the Urban Lake. We still doing virtual because of the pandemic, with helping individuals cycle through educational microenterprise training. In addition, we do housing projects, of course. There are two projects we did in the course of the year. One was Starnes, which is in Clarkston. The other one is Stride, which is in Decatur. Next chart, John. A photo of Starnes will be here. There's a ribbon cutting we had months ago on this project. It's 128 units, which is very important. We put about $1.2 million in this project to get affordable housing online. And Stride, and next chart, John, is 82 units. This is downtown Decatur, not too far from it's in Decatur. We've had a ribbon cutting on this, and it's also an 82 unit complex. The next area is continuum of care. So this summarizes the homeless initiatives on a macro basis. I alluded to earlier that we had 396 homeless citizens were held in hotels. We accommodate them during the pandemic. In addition to that, we transported individuals on warming stations to hotels to accommodate them. We also have what the governing body would be is called a continuum of care. And it goes back to the grant we have for $6 million. But we do a lot in the homeless arena. But this chart just summarizes some of the efforts we did. Next chart, John. And here we go, this year's plan. So Congress gave us the following plan of indicated here about $8 million when you include program income. It's broken out into various buckets of the CDBG, home, and ESG. Next chart, John. So the big items in the plan for CDBG initially will be the following, which will aggregate to 800,000. These projects are in various districts, but the City of Lithonia sidewalk project is a project where the City of Lithonia, that they have a relationship with us, would like to have sidewalks for pedestrian safety in the City of Lithonia. In addition, the DeKalb County Police Athletic League, PAL, will occupy an old building that we were actually in years ago, 1807 Candler Road, where code currently is, to implement the Police Athletic League initiatives. So they requested $165,000 to have youth initiatives with equipment, basketball goals, et cetera, on Candler Road to be able to help youth in that building. That's going to be the headquarters going forward. So that's a plan item. The next item would be, go back, John, to the previous chart. There are other things to cover, if you could. Okay. There is also an allocation for the South DeKalb Senior Center. They need screens to avail more video showing the sun is too intense coming to the building. So there's about 30,000 provide help to human services. In addition, we have DeKalb Atlanta, which is in District 3, of course, and District 6. We plan to put $150,000 to renovate DeKalb Atlanta. Also, a major project, the largest one we have is going to be the police department. The police academy has requested that we help them with a mandatory test that the state has for police individuals in the academy. They have to go through physical training to be able to be officers, and it's a requirement. We're going to take the old Lithonia or East DeKalb Senior Center and convert it over and renovate that to provide a facility indoors for the academy to be able to train our new officers. And that's the project where they're going to supplement our funding with SPLOST funding to pull that project off. Next chart, John.
Wait 1 second. I saw Commissioner Terry hand go up. Yes, sir. Keep the slides up.
Yeah, thank you for the slide back up. So I saw that it was at 4.4 million allocation, but this only says 800,000. So are you, is this just?
And the total is 4.4, and the first subset of it is public facilities. CDBG is broken out into various categories: economic development, public facilities, public service, things like that. And so this is 8 of the 4.
Oh, I see. And are there percentages in this formula, or is that just discretionary?
Oh, no, it's the amount we get is from Congress, and then we have to break it out into various categories. There's certain areas that you have caps on, but this is a fairly large area that we put money into. It's called public facilities. This is where we do police stations, fire stations.
I understand. But in terms of the ratio of 800,000 for public facilities out of 4.4 million, is that a formula, or is that just?
No, it's a plan input. It's based on community needs and what the projects we felt we could put in the plan. So
okay, gotcha. Okay, well, just two things to think about. And you mentioned the Starnes Center in Clarkston, and just a lesson learned from that development, because it was the first senior affordable housing development in Clarkston. However, where it was built was really sort of dependent upon available land and probably price as well. But if you go out there, and this is, partly the city's fault, but it could have been an opportunity for us to partner with, CDBG as well, because there's a sidewalk that the development improved and created, but the sidewalk goes to nowhere. And so there's literally a 300-foot gap between the sidewalk of the senior center and the sidewalk on the public street. And so I just think that, when we're looking at future senior, supported developments, that if we're going to be doing sidewalk projects as well, let's try to align them. Because what I hate is us putting our seniors off on some, side road or some, kind of off to the side. But if there's no sort of accessible walking or, just, pedestrian access, then it kind of sort of just isolates them, and either they got to walk in the street or they got to drive somewhere. And then I'm not going to second guess this budget. But, we do spend a lot of money on public safety, and we were just talking about having the best trained police force, in the state. But does it make sense to spend half of this public facilities improvement on a police training facility when we already are talking about major investments, coming from, I assume that the police fund, primarily. So it just seems like there might be kind of an incongruency in the priorities. It's a lot to spend on police out of this budget, which I know has other elements of it, like the Police Athletic League, that I think to me seem just a little bit more suited towards CDBG's mission.
Commissioner, a couple of responses, and I'll be very quick. The Academy came to us, they couldn't get funding otherwise. They only got $180,000 from SPOS funding, but that was it. So they didn't have any source of funding. So they made a reform request, which they're entitled to get funding. So we agreed to appropriate them. In terms of police precincts, we built South Police Precinct. That was $3.5 million. So from time to time, we help police with various capital projects. So that's okay. The other response I have is during of new facilities. I'm doing the senior centers. Let's take District 4 and 7 Senior Center. The Transportation Department made me put in sidewalks from Elam Road all the way past the center. So sometimes the city with this its planning staff should mandate sidewalks to supplement various facilities. So when I build a building, I'm not allowed to get away without putting in elaborate sidewalks. So it goes hand in hand. So in this case, the city did not mandate that they put sidewalks in extensively, and perhaps in hindsight they should have. So that's some of the things that we get into in terms of building various things. But of course, the city can come to us for sidewalk projects. As you know, most of the cities have projects, whether it be Chamblee, Doraville, Clarkson, Althonia. We do a number of sidewalk projects. So the city is more than welcome to come and make a request to us to help them with sidewalks. And we've done sidewalks here, as you know, before. So those are my quick responses to your points.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Next chart. Okay, so very quickly, economic development is a subcategory of CDBG. We've always had Urban Lake as being a strong partner. We plan to appropriate them $100,000 for their training. In addition, we have a large indebtedness, as you know, for the 3 senior centers we built, Northeast, South, and West, North, South, and Central, where we have a mortgage on those. I have to pay a HUD Section 108 loan repayment of about $800,000 per year. And so we have to appropriate some of our funds to pay that debt back to the Bank of New York and Mellon, which holds the mortgage. And I've got that $14 million loan down to about $6 million. So over the years, we paid a significant amount from the loan fund. Next chart. This category has a cap on it. You can only use 15% of the CDBG funds for public service. And so I'm displaying here the COC homeless assistance nonprofits that tend to get funding. They vary from $22,000 up to $45,000. Next chart, John. And the next one is being literate. That's a category which is very small, but we cover that. The fair housing, foreclosure prevention, primarily Atlanta legal aid, Metro fair housing. Those are things that are mandated. We have. Next chart, John. And then the last one would be youth child development. We do things in the youth arena to help individuals and all. And that aggregates to 15% of our total, which is $673,000. And that's the max we can put into that area. The next area is housing and needs. So these are things that we do for the entire DeKalb County citizens. They're going to be special purpose housing repair, which are senior citizens. We plan to put $400,000 into the program this year to supplement prior year funding. In addition, we have demolition and blight, which is a very significant. I've got 3 demolitions that we just got permits on the other day, and I'll be bringing those forward. You see those demolitions being actually this month. We plan to get those with the CEO's office and the communications. We're going to be scheduling 3 demolitions that I'm ready to go on, but I need a budget in place for that to take on the mammoth amount of blight we have in our county. And of course, we have our salary. We get paid from our federal funds, as you all know. We don't get money from the county, and I have to pay my staff and everything else with the $900,000 within the context of CDBG. Next chart. Home is a separate project, and we do home funds. We lend loans to developers for purpose of affordable housing. And on the macro basis, we've got a $2 million allocation, and this is how we plan to spend it. We've got a couple projects on the way. There's another TOD project in downtown Decatur, which is next to the Columbia Residential project. actually next to Sam Street. If we look out the building where we currently in the Sam Street, there's a proposal to put a new TLD project up next to the Phase B, right near Sam Street in downtown Decatur, which would be a great affordable housing project. And there are other projects that we're working on with and Shamley that are on the way. We do underwriting for those projects. Next chart. The next category is going to be the smallest grant we have, which is the Emergency Solutions Grant, which transcends about 5 agencies, and they tend to get funds for 30% AMI individuals. This goes toward supplemental homeless initiatives. The biggest recipient would be Travelers Aid and also the Decatur Cooperative Ministries. So next chart, John. And that's it. I'm ready to entertain questions about our proposal.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell, and appreciate the hard work your staff is doing in the midst of a pandemic. I see you, Commissioner Rader. Did you get any additional funds through ARPA or the federal government in these last couple of years for CDBG?
Yes, we did. If we go back to the chart, there's a chart there where I laid out about $20 million. So John, if you go back.
So you got an additional 20 million than your normal budget?
Yes, if you go back 1, 2, 3, go back.
Just wanted people to.
I should. That was a chart that Commissioner Terry had a question on. One more, John, for that. Keep going. I go back again. It's up front. Sorry. There you go. Right there. Okay. So this chart explains.
That's just one-time funding.
It's one-time funding, but it's not. It's multi-year funding. So to answer your question, in the CDBG area, we got 6.8, and that was viewed as being funding for CARES Act, ARP. The home initiative, which is home ARP, has got the clinical name home ARP. That's 7.8 million. And that's the funding we can actually do tenant-based rental assistance. We can get a non-congregate shelter. So we plan to supplement transitional housing to be able to put people on shelter before they get permanent housing. That's ARP funding from HUD.
I just want to know that's one time only, right?
Yes, but you have one time only, but you have a couple of years to spend the money.
Right. I just want to put everything in perspective because we got this money for now, but you're not going to have it. So you're going to have to find you're going to have to find ways to supplement long-term if you're planning on doing a project of these magnitudes. And so I just want to make sure we have, especially the CEO Williams, looking at these funds are for this one time only. And so if you're planning on doing a long-term project, we need to be planning for what's the funding streams are going to come in the future. So thank you for that. I'll go to Commissioner Rader, then Johnson, then Terry.
Yeah, just because we have a long agenda, when is this, when's the deadline for the approval of this?
When is the deadline, Commissioner, to HUD? It's almost immediate. It's statutory. They came out late with the allocations, and we have to get it in as soon as possible because it's statutory. Statutory means that if you don't, it's no recourse. You lose all the money.
So what is that date?
That date is, the mandatory date to HUD is the first week in August.
First week in August. Okay, so we got July.
Yeah, right. Yes, yeah.
The second meeting in July. Okay, because I just think that obviously reviewing this at this point, there's going to be a lot of questions and you have a long agenda. Second question is under public services, were there, how many applications were rejected in favor of the ones that we allocated the 673 to?
I don't have at my fingertips the number that were rejected. I could get it within like 30 seconds of my staff. They're on the line as well. They can tell me. I have a massive application review and scoring process, and we have that documented in spreadsheets.
So it would just be nice to kind of see that because, you know, you always hear from the losers, not the winners. As it relates to the 400,000 that you have allocated towards the
we had one, Commissioner. I just got input. We had one agency that we rejected. One.
Only one?
They didn't meet the minimum threshold. Right.
Only one. Good to know. Okay, that doesn't sound like it's a problem. So then on the police academy physical fitness, why are we not using our public safety allocation out of SPLOST, since, you know, we're not building a new academy within this SPLOST, and it seems as though there should be adequate funds to be able to fund the improvements that you're proposing at Lucius Sanders.
My understanding is that the Academy had requested funding and they got appropriated $180,000. And so $180,000 will not give you a police facility where you can do adequate training. We are using, luckily, a building
Okay,
that we're
but maybe
abandoning.
Mr. Williams can, because we have not made a determination on the expenditure of those, you know, police training funds. Mr. Williams, can you?
Yeah, my recollection, and we'll double check the numbers, is actually we had planning money in the budget for a police fire academy. I want to say it's like $250,000, to be honest with you. But that's for design work. So,
Okay, it would also be interesting to see what is left in that public safety category, since we have.
the overall category, Commissioner?
Yeah, I mean, I think that those monies are somewhat fungible.
That's true. There may be some left over from where we bought radios and police cars.
So, and maybe you could bring that back at the SPLOST cow on, since this is timely question right now. And, you know, I mean, CDBG is often fills some significant gaps within our funding framework. So, you know, I hate to do it for something that we
May have
will
other.
have other money to fund. And then my final question, and then I'll yield, is related to, hold on just a second. Are we fully exploiting our administrative? Are we maxing out at 20% there?
Yes, unequivocally, yes.
Okay. And then as it relates to, you know, we have under the home program, I think you've got a pretty big block. I mean, that particular table sort of showed home eligible and didn't really differentiate between the projects. I'd be interested in knowing the details of how that home money is going out, since it's not in the document itself. So those are my 4 questions. And, you know, given again that we have a little bit of time, Mr. Chair, I would certainly support a 2-week deferral on this and bring it back.
Oh, yeah. I just brought it for.
My response on referral is that we can give you anything you need today, Commissioner. The problem is that HUD is a statutory date, the first week in August. However, the Atlanta region would like to have the input earlier than that. We can't get them something at the 11th, at the 12th hour. They admit that they are late giving us the allocation, so we couldn't submit. You can't submit a plan until after Congress gives you the money. So the money was late this year. We had a meeting with the regional director saying, we're late, do whatever you can to get your plans approved and get it into us. So we don't have until the bitter end to play with a statutory requirement by HUD.
This is a recurring problem for us. This has happened before several times that we have been presented with these plans and not had any chance to review them. So I'm, you know, I guess I'm sympathetic, but at the same time, you know, they can't be delayed, but I guess we can.
That's why they gave us the money.
Unfortunately, that's the way it happens with that. We're looking at 2022 money. As you know, in the county, everyone here has a budget already approved for 2022. We don't have money for 2022 at all, and we're looking in June. So to delay this is interesting, but we don't have appropriations. The whole county is working on the mid-year budget for 2022, but community development is trying to get the first dollar for 2022 in the middle of the summer. We might not get it until probably September, October. So the last thing we want to do is put it at risk. I'll give you any analysis or answer any questions you have today. Anything you need.
We if anybody have any questions in the next 2 weeks, you know, we can bring it back to the board as well, because I don't want to jeopardize the funding that we have in place. And we know that HUD sent it to us, but the feds are the feds. So any more questions, Commissioner Rader?
No, I yield.
Commissioner Johnson, then Terry.
Yeah, you know, I would just like to say this, you know, if we was in a perfect world, you know, things would just fall at us when we would want them to, but we are not. and we a lot of times deal with bureaucracy. And, I mean, we just have to deal with it. I mean, that's life. You have to deal with stuff that you feel that's not right, that's not fair. But if it comes to you, we have to deal with it. And so, I just say this, it seems as if, I know when I came in, and I'm gonna be short, but when I came in 15, everybody had a sign up talking about lack of police and what we're not doing for police and how people want more policing out. I mean, the whole theme was police. What we're trying to do is protect our citizens, because I do know that I still get calls. It's not a lot. It's not enough police over here. It's not enough police over here. We're having to wait here. So one thing that I know is that public safety is still number one in my district. And secondly, my district also appreciate Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter. And we also know who gets the brunt of unethical or whatever, the police officers. So we're aware of that as well. But people want to be safe in their community. They want officers, public safety in their community. They want us to be aware of the disparity between stopping my son and maybe stopping your son, Jeff, because we have to sit down and talk to my son when he's stopped by police. And I don't care if it's the DeKalb police or Atlanta police, because I don't know who's stopping them. But we do have to tell our children what to do and what to expect. Now, at the same time, I want to be protected in my community and in my house. And so this fight against where money's going in public safety, look at our statistics. We're trying to take care of both because we recognize that both are an issue. So, we got funding for police, and if it goes down, we don't have the training, we don't have the officers, we don't have the skill set, then we're going to get more calls. So I just want us to be focused on what we're talking about, because it seems as if we in a situation where the board itself is calling to defund the police. Well, that's not what we meant. I mean, and that's not what the general population meant when you talk about defund the police. You want to put resources in areas that's going to benefit our citizens as well as to protect our communities. So, I just want to make that known. And so if we got money to do what we need to do, if we have a deadline to do it, we need to do it, whether we need to call special meetings or not. Because I'm going to tell you, if policing go down, they're going to be calling me in my district, because they're calling me now. Everybody that comment, when I came in, everybody at that mic would talk about what we're not doing for the police. Because people are concerned about their safety, and they're concerned about the safety of their children, and they should be. So I just want to know that whatever we need to do, if we need to call special meetings every other day, I'm available. So I just want to say that.
Thank you so much. And we're not going to get into the back and forth. Is there any more questions for Mr. Mitchell, Commissioner Terry? And we got 2 weeks if he needs to do some follow-up, but he has a pressing deadline as well. Commissioner Terry.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be brief here. I did want to kind of just put a marker back on the idea of investing in public benefits navigators. And if we look at the Dabney report, if we look at the stats, regarding the convenience store ordinance and regulations we're looking at, it is a different approach depending on what census tract or in some cases zip code you're talking about. It's just there's different, hotspots. And what's really interesting is that some of these hotspots overlap with the low vaccination rates. And we have these, indexes. One's called the Social Vulnerability Index. And I feel like the federal government, HUD, has a couple other indexes they use. And I think that in this plan, we should think, I see it, we're kind of doing it a holistic approach, or maybe just sort of a kind of county-wide approach. But I do think there's efficacy in honing in on the areas where we know where the highest violent crime rates are, particularly the places where people are living. And I think that I'm gonna stay on this dangerous dwellings, moniker, because when you look at where people live surrounded by the highest number of murders and violent crime, it only comes down to about 158 properties in Metro Atlanta. So we're talking about relocation fees, we're talking about police training, we're talking about, we have the resources and the capability within Director Mitchell's office to, I think, look at these properties where we see that they are the highest violent crime rates, to go in and take a more holistic approach. And so I just think this is an opportunity for us to plan that out. I'll take issue with being handed a plan and saying vote on it, because I thought part of it, the idea was that, you would solicit our ideas from the plan, but it's really just here's the plan, vote on it, because we were running out of time. So, it's just, I think that maybe next year we start talking about 2023's plan as soon as this one gets approved.
Yeah, and just to add, Mr. Mitchell, every year is the same process. So if a commissioner has any ideas, you can always submit. For 2021, you could have submitted some for 2022. And as we go, he's just up against a deadline that's not his. And we don't want to lose the funding that HUD has given us, because we'll fall farther in the hole. And so, Mr. Mitchell, what you're telling us is that you need to get this on the agenda, because you got to get it to our ARC before it gets approved by HUD.
What I'm saying in essence is that we have to get it to the regional office. We go directly from to the regional office, which goes to HUD. HUD has a regional office downtown Atlanta on Marietta Street, and that's for Area 4. So our plans go to them, and then it goes to Washington. All the input for the county, I sent a letter to every commissioner requesting input. Some respond and try to get clarity on their areas. Every commissioner gets a letter from me electronically. Every department head in DeKalb County gets a letter. Every city in DeKalb County gets a letter. All the agencies get letters. So we communicate to commissioners. We communicate to every department head in the county. The input I have reflects input from the whole county and all the agencies. So anyone that checks their mail, checks their office, the chiefs of staff, they have letters from my office. Any department head in DeKalb County, from sanitation, you name your favorite department head, they have a letter from me requesting input. So the projects I work on are a function of needs we get in from everyone in DeKalb County. The senior centers, anything you think of that I work on is based on a commissioner or an individual or department head requesting help or assistance. So we don't do this in a vacuum. So what I'm reflecting today is the result of that input.
All right, thank you so much. Commissioners, we've heard our Director of Human Community Development, and he has been consistent. The department is doing some great work. And I would like to entertain a motion to, and then in that process, give people 2 weeks if they have any more feedback for Alan, they can bring it to our board meeting. Can I entertain a motion at this time?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to defer for 2 weeks to be positioned to take a vote. So that's my motion. So
Second. All right, let's move and properly second to defer, and we will
to be positioned to take a vote. So that means that, and that was part of my motion, because I think that within this time period, we already know that there's a time frame that we're
Was this
looking
the
at.
forward without recommendation? Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry. No, this is the deferral.
Well, he doesn't need a deferral because he wants us, Mr. Mitchell would like for us to go up or down.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because he
So
said
then-
if you defer it, it's going, he has to know
Okay,
about
so
all this.
not defer it. Okay, then let me change my motion then. I make a motion that this come back to committee in 2 weeks for a vote. Is that
No,
okay.
he's looking for an approval and if,
today?
right, and to
Today?
the regular board.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
And if we're ready to
Well-
move forward, I'll entertain a motion. If we want to defer it, we just
Okay,
understand.
well then I will make a motion for approval if all of the questions are answered
Mhm.
by the next board meeting.
All right. Mr. Williams, you had something to add?
Well, yeah, or sometimes what the committees will do is send it forward with no recommendation. And that gives staff a couple weeks to do what Commissioner Davis Johnson just mentioned, get the
Yeah,
question.
but he's
Okay,
not-
then.
that's not what Mr. Mitchell needs.
But it would accomplish the same thing if it was placed on the agenda.
Okay, well, I'd rather, let's say with approval, I make the motion for the approval, the recommendation of approval. Okay. Pending. Can legal help me? The legal know my intent. Can legal help me frame
Yeah,
my motion?
you saying it's approved, and if people have questions, they could, it can come back, but you want to make sure we have an approval out of the committee.
Right. Is that good, legal? Is my county attorney?
Yes, ma'am, I'm right here. I think what
okay.
you're doing
Can
is you're asking,
Can you help me here?
yes, ma'am, I think I can. You're asking for a motion to approve. That would be the committee recommendation. But obviously, if any members of the commission have questions or would like to take further action when it appears on Tuesday, then they can do so. Is that what you're doing, Commissioner?
Right, right. To the next board meeting for approval. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
So was my motion made correctly?
Yes.
County?
Oh, okay, attorney, Madam Attorney.
Yes, it's a motion to approve, subject to questions or deferral by other commissioners at the board meeting.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
And we've done this before where you approve an item, and if it has any more questions between here and now, we can bring it back. So it's not unprecedented what we just did. I need a second.
I can't do it. You're going to have to second it.
All right, I'll second the motion. It's moving properly second. Are there any more comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, show of hands and words.
I'm going
Any
to abstain.
opposed?
I'll abstain.
One abstention. Thank you so much. Now we'll go to 1463, which is a RFP proposal 20-500559, home delivered self-stable meals for seniors, multi-year from the Department of Human Services. Consists of providing meals directly to homebound seniors located throughout DeKalb. Recommend award to the highest scoring proposer, Meals on Wheels Atlanta, not to exceed $3,076,020. Mr. Scott.
Good afternoon,
Ms.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and members of the PECS Committee. With this item, this is a procurement item from a solicitation to the highest scoring bidder to provide shelf-stable and home-delivered meals to a homebound senior population that has a either special dietary need or a case management need that indicates food insecurity. And these are seniors that are most likely and tend not to be members of the senior center. And so this particular request is for approval from the PECS Committee and the BOC to approve the multi-year contract for the highest scoring proposer.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, questions?
Is this the incumbent?
I'm sorry, Commissioner?
Is this the incumbent?
No, sir, it is not. This is a new award.
Okay, and so did the incumbent lose on price, or did they not deliver satisfactory services? What was the basis?
And I would have to
Who was the incumbent?
can answer that question for me, but this is for the highest scoring vendor.
So who was the incumbent?
The current incumbent is I have to get that particular information for you. It's
Ms. Horner?
right now.
Daryl may know. I see Daryl's on too. Mr. Blackwell.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, commissioners. The current incumbent is actually a company called Mom's Meals. That's who we used during the pandemic. And so that's who is currently providing the provision of home delivered meals.
Okay, and Meals on Wheels had previously been a vendor, right? And then you changed them?
No, they've never delivered. They never won an award for home delivered meals, Commissioner. They were the awarded vendor for our congregate meals program.
And it does not appear that Moms submitted?
They did, I believe that they did, but Meals on Wheels was the highest scoring vendor proposer for that solicitation.
I'm looking at this list and I don't see anybody named Moms. I see Mets and Supreme and Revolution and Lanyap.
That's correct, Commissioner. Mom's Meal did not apply for the Home Delivered Meals Award. So what you see there from the firms and the highest scoring vendor by almost 43 points, the next vendor that came into question as it relates to this RFP, Meals on Wheels Atlanta was the highest scoring vendor, and then there was 2 non-responsive.
Can I, Commissioner Brady, let me get Ms. Horner on before I come to you, Commissioner Johnson. Ms. Horner, you have anything to add? I meant to call you first before I brought up Mr. Scott to give us the process. You heard Commissioner Rader's questions. Anything you want to add to that?
I think that y'all have covered it. We had a total of 6 proposals. 2 were non-responsive, 1 for LSBE and 1 for failure to have a food service and health inspection certificate. And then Meals on Wheels is the highest scoring proposer by quite a significant amount. And after the review by the committee did recommend award to the highest scoring proposer, and purchasing supports that.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Johnson. Oh, Commissioner Rader, are you needing?
I'm through, thanks. I yield back.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioner Davis Johnson.
Yeah, it's a pretty significant margin between Meals on Wheels and the second highest score. The second and third is probably is about the same. So what would you attribute to that significance, the difference in the scoring?
Okay, we do have a summary of the scoring, which should be in your agenda item packages. But from a quick look at it, it looks like there was a lack of experience in these particular areas of home delivered meals.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but just
Okay.
let me follow up on that, because you said we had not used Meals on Wheels Atlanta before, and then it says in your report, a history of successfully working with DeKalb County to resolve issues has been established. So which is it?
Commissioner Rader,
Yes.
during the pandemic, we utilized different companies to get meals to seniors based on assessment and need. This particular Meals on Wheels Atlanta was awarded for our congregate meals program, which is meals for seniors that came to our senior center. They responded, Meals on Wheels responded to a home delivered meals program, which is a separate service. So while we formally did not use Meals on Wheels specific to our homebound population that has special dietary needs that were not part of our senior center membership, we did not technically use them for this RFP or for this particular service in that manner. So otherwise, it would be the same solicitation. For congregate meals, it would be the same service definition for home delivered meals. So being that they responded and they were the highest scoring vendor for a home delivered meals program, which is a different service, we did not use Meals on Wheels in that capacity prior.
Thank you for that.
Does that make sense?
It does, but it would have been helpful to know that we'd use them for a different program because that would explain their organizational qualification listing there.
Right.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Ted Terry?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've used Senior Connection in previous years. And I guess what I was interested in was will there still be volunteers doing the delivery routes? I know when I did the Clarkson route every year with Senior Connections. So is that part of this contract that there'll still be volunteers delivering the meals?
Thank you for that question as well. This particular model may incorporate use of volunteers somewhere down the road, but the models have shifted from what you have known it to be in the past when Senior Connections was into play. And that model, primarily because business models have shifted during the pandemic. And so there's been a delivery and we use transportation and other means to deliver meals to the homes of the seniors. But going forward, it will be assessed and we will continue to look at, as well as the vendor will continue to look at how to incorporate that particular hands-on service somewhere down the road.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so currently, in this contract, Meals on Wheels Atlanta, they in essence just have dedicated drivers / delivery staff.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any more questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval, but I do not like that delivery model because it denies the subjects, the interaction that the volunteers have always given them. So I am concerned about that, but I will move approval on this selection and hope that we can get back to volunteers because they really add a lot.
I agree. I think the volunteers.
Second.
All right, second. Moved and properly second. There's any more questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, show of hands and words. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Did you vote, Commissioner
I
Rader?
did. I said aye.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you. Okay.
1679 is a request for proposal 19-500537 Lou Walker Senior Center Aquatic Services for use for Department of Human Services. Consists of providing aquatic services to seniors at Lou Walker Senior Center. The request is to rescind the award of United Pool Management for America, LLC. All right, Ms. Horner, and then Mr. Scott.
All right, commissioners, in this particular contract, we took an excessively long time to try to get it executed because at the time, senior centers were closed. The vendor had multiple exceptions which stretched out the process of the actual execution of the contract. It was as if every time we addressed one exception, sent them a contract for execution, they then expressed another one. And the very last exception was the pricing, and they desired to actually increase the prices over and above what they had provided in their proposal. The contract had not even been signed at that time. And at this time, I think it was Human Services' desire just to go ahead and rescind and then work with purchasing so that we can do another solicitation for the services.
Thank you so much. Mr. Scott, you want to add to it?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Exactly what Director Horner had said. And this was a comprehensive services, being that Lou Walker has the only therapeutic pool in the county for seniors. And so it was comprehensive services, and this particular vendor and working with them with procurement over the past 2 years, just never executed, never signed the contract. So we're going in another direction.
Okay,
I'd like to go another direction with your pool. Sorry about that.
All right, this is rescinding this request, and then you'll go back out for bid. I'll take Commissioner Rader.
Is this pool being used?
No, sir, the pool is not being used currently.
So is it full or is it full and under maintenance though it were being used?
The pool is not in operation as the Lou Walker Senior Center is closed, but it still requires chemicals. It still requires the machinery to be checked. Levels need to be checked and the like. So that was part of this particular contract and the service. But as you know, it has to be procured in advance in order for you to use a particular company. And that was done in anticipation of it being operational and seniors using it, nobody knew that the pandemic was coming in the way it would in the senior center.
Yeah, and so how, let's see, how much has been expended on this unexecuted contract? Ms. Horner?
Or Ms. Horner?
As far as I know, we may have approved some emergency purchases, low dollar amounts, but there has been no money spent on this particular proposed contract, is my understanding.
All right.
Ms. Director Scott, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so then how was all that accomplished for the past 2 years?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, what was the question?
This maintenance that you just alluded to, how was that accomplished for the past 2 years?
As Director Horner just said, we have used emergency services and we've worked with the Parks and Recreation's pool vendor to help us to take a look at it.
Okay.
And as the pool is not being used.
Okay, would you just mind providing me with information on that, since it seems at odds with what we have here, but I have no other questions.
I got you. I'll entertain a motion to rescind.
So moved.
All right, need a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second. All in favor, show of hands and words. Aye. Motion carries. We're like 3:30. We're over our time. We're going to go through a preliminary of 1765 because I know the budget is pressing right now and want to get that done. So Commissioner Cochran Johnson, do you want to give us an overview? And is there a slide that we can see the whole resolution? But just give us an overview and we'll see how much we can get through and what you want to do.
Absolutely, Commissioner Johnson, there's a lot to unpackage. I have my Cliff Notes version prepared to go.
All right.
But, for a lack of better words, this is a serious matter because we're talking about affordable housing and declaring it a crisis here in DeKalb County. So what I've given you is a very detailed overview of the data and the numbers and what leads one to identify what we're experiencing here as a housing crisis and to call upon both federal, state, as well as local elected officials and legislators to pass common sense legislation that supports home ownership. And again, you see the data and the statistics, but when you get to page 2, I think that's where we need to spend the bulk of our time because
let me ask you, Madam Commissioner, you're looking at some data. I don't have what you have, or do the committee members have it?
I would hope so. I am speaking directly from the exact resolution.
Resolution. Okay, I thought you had some additional points for each one. Okay.
And what I wanted to do is go more deeply into the points. For instance, one of the things that, the resolution, if you skip to page 2, where we say now, therefore be it resolved. One of the things that we identify what we're dealing with as a affordable housing crisis. But the second bullet is very important, where the governing authority of DeKalb County seeks to foster greater transparency of property ownership and rentals through the creation of a rental registry. Right. I think that's something we really need to consider. Rental registries are popping up across the United States, and these require landowners to register their property if it is being utilized as a rental and get approval for that home to be utilized as a rental unit. It allows us to go into the home, to inspect the home, because in many instances, what we're seeing is the acquisition of property without any investment because it's a purely financial state. And oftentimes, here in DeKalb, we often deal with code compliance not having the ability to access a home. But through the rental registry, it requires that landlord to register. And also, depending upon how we'd like to craft it, and I'm more than happy to send along some sample suggestions, it allows us to gain access to the interior of the home for inspection. As a general rule, what I'm seeing with rental registries is it allows us every 3 years to actually assess that property. And the data clearly shows that the properties that within the major cities across the United States that have shown the greatest disrepair are your rental type properties. So there's definitely a need for us to have greater latitude in our ability to enforce code compliance. And with the rental registry, we can actually set an annual fee that the landlord would pay into a pool that we could utilize as needed. Now, I've seen those fees to be very minimal, but the benefit has been absolutely amazing. And currently there are at least 20 cities, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, Seattle, Sacramento, Philadelphia, Boston, Raleigh, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Pittsburgh, San Francisco. The list continues to grow of urban and metropolitan cities that are now creating rental registries. And this also helps us with legislation so that we clearly understand the balance of rentals within communities as we're seeing more and more R100 properties that are traditionally homes that are housing single families that are being converted into rental properties. So there's a lot to talk about. I don't know. I know that, we have FAB and we have some important conversations there.
I'm glad you gave us a taste, and we'll bring this back. Just one quick question for legal, because I know I was here when we created the mortgage registry for foreclosure registry. And I know we had at one point a rental registry. Now, the rental registry, did it ever go away? Because we required people who had, so we can keep what Commissioner Cochran Johnson has talked about, because when we had the first big foreclosure wave that hit South DeKalb and DeKalb, we started having a lot of rentals pop up, and we wanted to get in control of it because of the issue she raised about code compliance. What happened to our rental registry? Because I know we had the foreclosure registry. What happened to that?
Wow.
Mr. Welch, or?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the foreclosure. I'll have to find out on the rental.
And Commissioner,
That's not as familiar to me, just the foreclosure.
It may not have been called that. It was some registry we had beside foreclosure registry that we asked people to register if you owned or rented a property or something like that.
I'm going to text Hans about it.
yeah, I believe there was a vacant property registry at one point, Commissioner, in addition to the foreclosure registry. Those are slightly different. And but to your point, sir, there are currently provisions of state law that may limit our ability to enact every aspect of what Commissioner Cochran Johnson has just laid out. But as I believe the point of her resolution is to urge changes in laws that might tie your hands, I believe everything that she said makes perfect sense. But yes, commissioners, there is currently a provision in state law that might limit our ability to do everything that Commissioner Cochran Johnson just laid out.
So Commissioner Cochran Johnson, can we do this? Have you given it to law to look at, and then we can bring back then with some solutions with what you have?
I did send it over to law.
Okay.
And there were some red lines done. So if we'd like to put it out, because that's where we're headed regardless, for a 2-week period, it'll just give me more time to do due diligence.
That'll be fine.
And if I might, Mr. Chair, also a second part of this would call for a rental cap or rental control. And I've done some research, and the most stringent rent control is in St. Paul, Minnesota. They cap it at 3%. But as a general rule, California, Maryland, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, and Washington, D.C. And many of these states are among the top 10 in terms of rises in rental rates and escalated home prices. Most of them are capping the rental rise at 4.5% as a general rule. But here in 2021, in the state of Georgia, we saw rental rates increase 20%. So
okay,
I'm ready to have the conversation.
One second, Commissioner Johnson. Law, when you make sure you have, once you've given the information to Commissioner Cochran Johnson, we need a copy so we can have all of that discussion at our next PECS meeting. So we can totally flush it out. And if you got like for each resolution point, if you have some ideas in each of them, please give them to us and some case law, whatever we need, so we can be able to flush it out. Now I'll go to Commissioner Marita Davis Johnson, and then we have to end so we can get to Fab. After this, I see,
And I'm gonna
see Commissioner Ray on the edge.
I'm gonna be real short. I see Commissioner Rader looking at me now, but I just want to make sure that legal does look at it. I think the intention behind your legislation, Commissioner Cochran Johnson, I think is great. But then I know that the laws of Georgia is going to be dependent. It's going to be dependent upon what the laws of Georgia has, because the state controls the property, the land in Georgia. And so each state has its own laws. And so I think that's the reason it's important that that the law department can flush out what we can and cannot do here in Georgia. But I think that I love that concept. I think it's needed. And I think that legal can help us navigate through it. So thank you.
Yeah, it's great. It's timely.
I'd also like us to consider inclusionary zoning so that we can ensure that all our new multifamily projects have housing or have some workforce or affordable housing included in them also as a matter of law. That'll help us to be able to make that part of the development pro forma, so they don't pay too much for the land because they know that they've got to deliver some affordable housing within their program.
Great. Thank you so much. And that will be, and we have workforce housing on our agenda to talk about. We hadn't gotten to it in 2 meetings, but the Grady funding, right quick, Mr. Williams, you're going to bring forth a proposal for the Grady funding. So all the commissioners, if you can get to the commissioners ahead of time, so then we can flush it out in the committee. I know we've talked about it, and we're waiting on funding from ARPA to help us. So will you have something ready for us at the next committee meeting?
Yes, yeah, I would definitely anticipate having it at the next committee meeting, and I've had communications with Grady that I'm pleased, wherein they're offering as part of our conversation maybe some expanded or new lines of service, and that just kind of makes sense from an investment standpoint. So yes, I hope that next time we meet, we're able to present that information.
All right, thank you all so much. Entertain a motion to adjourn so we can get
move.
Second.
Moved and properly second, and thank you all. We started a little late, but try to catch up. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
We'll begin right away.
All right. Take it away, sir.